Hey, what's up? And thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. Of course, my name is Chris Martinez. I am the CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people, the processes, and the education so that they can take on more projects and scale profitably. And if you like learning and you're listening to this podcast, I highly recommend that you go check out our exclusive membership site called Dude School. And this is where we post all kinds of crazy lessons about the not so sexy stuff of running a business, like how to manage your finances and how to hire people and how to run your operations. So you can go to Dude School, dudeschool.io, and sign up for free. Everything on there is free. And you can learn all these areas of the business that are actually going to help you to grow your profitability. So go check out Dude School. So today's lesson, very excited. We actually have one of our clients. His name is Chris Oberg. He is based out of Toronto. His agency is called Photon Factory, which is one of the coolest names of all time. So I've known Chris for a few months now. Really, really nice guy. They're doing some big things in Shopify. And he's going to talk a lot about how he went from basically being a side hustle agency owner, part-time agency owner, to now being full-time, having a team of people, growing his agency, and the little details that he had to shift, as well as the mindset changes he needed to make to now grow his agency so that it's, moving in the right direction and making good money and all that good stuff. So enjoy this episode. And of course, if you have any questions, or actually if you have some referrals for Shopify work, you can always send it over to Chris. Take care. All right, Chris, what's up, man? How's it going today?
Good, going well. How are you doing?
Doing well. And you're out of Toronto, is that correct?
Yeah, just a few minutes north of Toronto.
But, yeah. All right. Yeah. I have to say it. I'm going to try and say it the way that you guys do. You don't emphasize the T's, I don't think. So Toronto.
That's right. Toronto. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. How long have you been there for?
Been here for about close to 30 years or so.
So a while.
Yeah, quite a long time. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we're excited to have you on the show, and specifically to talk about how you've gone from that transition from one-man shop to now have a team. I know you've been working with us for a little while too, which is great. But first, of course, we do our roundtable discussion. So you told us that you're really into CrossFit, which we've had a few guests on that have talked about their love of CrossFit in the past. Cool. So tell all of our listeners about your CrossFit. I don't know if it's an addiction or something that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's definitely an addiction. It goes hand in hand with the shoe addiction as well. So you'll have to buy as many CrossFit shoes as you can possibly get. The thing that's great for me was that I had a background doing like mixed martial arts and more combat sports where it's highly competitive. But as I got older, I decided I didn't want any more concussions. And CrossFit really gives you that bit of competitive spark that you need, to make things a little more fun than just going to the gym and working out on your own. So that's the big driver for me. It's it doesn't have to be competitive, but it pretty much, for most of us it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're really
I actually now I want to ask you about the MMA stuff, because that definitely I would never have guessed that you were an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
Did you fight professionally, or was it all amateur?
No, never fought professionally. Never even, you could barely say I even fought amateur, really. It was more just the training. But I just was driven by that sort of competitive edge, and at the end of the day, you're, unless you are fighting professionally, you're fighting against yourself. You're your biggest opponent, just trying to improve all the time. And so that's what drove me with that. But like I say, just even sparring matches can be a little bit too aggressive at times, especially as you get older. So it's not just.
I've had my fair share of concussions from sports, as well as street fighting. But so like because I started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a couple of years ago, and I really, really love it. And I've done boxing, I've done kickboxing, and it's fun, but I feel like that's way harder on the body. And the chances for picking up an injury, like a concussion, are a lot higher, I think, than in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
What were some of the aspects of mixed martial arts that you trained specifically? Was it more striking or also
It by the
grappling
end
too?
it was by the end it was almost entirely boxing. I just happened to end up I followed a coach of mine to a new gym of his,
Mm-hmm.
and he was primarily boxing, and
Mm-hmm.
so I really fell in love with that. I mean, it was fantastic, and I did find injuries went way down in those cases, because when I was doing jiu-jitsu, you'd be fighting an arm lock or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then, for a week afterwards, your shoulder would be
Yeah.
just a mess, right? So I
Oh,
did.
I just tap. Like I just don't even care
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. You were smarter than I was. Yeah, I tried to fight it.
Yeah. I did that for the first few months, and then I got injured, and I was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Like, who am I trying to impress? Like, I'm just gonna let the 120-pound 19-year-old kid tap me, and then I get to start again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, back to the CrossFit. So like, have you competed in the CrossFit games and tried to actually go to that level of competition? Or is it
No,
just
but what we have for that's the famous part of CrossFit. What we end up for the rest of us is what's called the CrossFit Open.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody can compete in that, and you can see your scores. If you're registered, you can see how you rank in your country and your age group and that sort of thing. So that's kind of fun. It's kind of like competing, and really, again, you're just trying to improve on your score from the previous year.
Right.
But you might be like number 15,000 out of everybody, but that's still, if you can hit 14,000 the next year, that's a big improvement.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So I've done that only once so far. I've only been doing this for the past 2 years. So.
Mm-hmm. What do you find is the most difficult for you in CrossFit?
For me, it's with age, I have.
How old are you, by the way?
I'm 54.
Okay.
53. I'll be 54 soon. So I find the cardio side of things is really tough to. It's just not there like it used to be. So you're competing with these 20-year-olds, and they're running laps around the building or whatever, and it's just exhausting, and you never seem to get much better at that. Whereas back in when I was younger, I mean, I could go for days, and
Right.
no problem. But the strength hasn't really tapered off. That's stayed about the same, which
Awesome.
is good. But cardio wise, oh man, you just can't keep up. So.
What about the flexibility side of it? Because that's I'm 41, so I'm a bit younger than you. But my flexibility is just killing me. Or I've been really working on it, so it's improved a lot. But the lack of range of motion has really led to a lot more injuries that I don't think I really should have picked up by now.
Yeah, same here. My flexibility is brutal and always has been, and I refuse to do anything about it. Like I don't do any mobility work at all. It's terrible.
But don't you get some mobility just from the movements in CrossFit, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's what I count on. I just do that, and we do during the warm up and stuff. But if I was smart, I would actually work on some mobility in my off time and improve in that area. But
you know what I started doing a couple months ago? Actually, no, in January, Pilates. So I've been going to Pilates twice a week.
Yeah.
I do a private class here. And my instructor knows about my injuries and kind of like my rehab plan, because I also go to physical therapy twice a week for the mobility stuff, because it was so bad in December that I couldn't live. Like I was in pain all the time. And so started going to physical therapy. I go to physical therapy at least twice a week. And then I do Pilates twice a week. And that's really, really helped. Like in addition to me stretching every day, because I have like a 20 to 30 minute stretching routine that I do, that has been very, very helpful. So highly recommend. And anybody out there who's listening, please focus on your flexibility.
Yes.
When you turn classes like me and Chris, you will thank yourself for working on that when you're younger.
That's right. Yes,
awesome. Well, I'm excited to chat about your agency, Photon Factory, which I love the name. I told you that from the beginning. I love that. So really quickly, just tell us a little bit about what it is that you guys specialize in at Photon.
Yeah, so I mean, it runs the gamut. We do a lot of WordPress work. But our primary focus, our real niche, is Shopify. So, I mean, that's not always a good fit for certain clients. They're better off. I mean, if they have no e-commerce, for instance, they don't need to be on Shopify. So,
Right.
but we do a ton of that, and we have a really deep level of expertise there. I think we've been Shopify experts now for close to a decade. And that's a designation that Shopify gives out to
Nice.
agencies that have done a lot of great work. So, so we're pretty proud of that. And so that's our primary focus, I would say, is on the Shopify side of things. At least that's what we're finding out, and we just seem to be in a kind of a niche here that we didn't really expect. What we found is that a lot of people have jumped on the Shopify bandwagon, but they do not have our level of expertise, and so they're just on it because it's trendy, and they're trying to pick up on that.
What year did Shopify start?
I'm not sure exactly.
All right,
when
now we got to Google this.
Yeah, it had to be at least 15 years ago, I would say, and we've been with them now for the last 10. So
2006. So the Google says 2006 is when Shopify.
Look at that! I nailed it.
Right at 15 years, man. Good for you. You win some sort of award.
Yes, exactly.
Started
so,
by.
We've been working with it since it was. It was a great platform even back then, but the improvements have been amazing over the past 10 years.
And it looks like Shopify is also a Canadian company. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, they're located. Their head office right here in Ottawa.
That's amazing. I had no idea. Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
All right. So as I mentioned when we got started, one of the things that you told us about prior to getting on the show was, you had the shift from going from a one-person shop now to have a team and stuff like that. So that's a huge turning point for so many people. I have my own theories about it, but what prevented you from doing it sooner than you did?
Yeah, there were really two things going on there. I think I had come from an agency where I was VP of technology, so I was just one cog in the big machine, and it was really easy. You can fall into a real comfort zone there where you're just part of a team, and it's a big team effort, and so it's not everything doesn't just fall on your shoulders, and so you can really kind of half-ass it in a way, and don't necessarily have to be all that focused. That company ended up going out of business. I've been there for close to 20 years, just before COVID hit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so my side hustle suddenly turned into my only hustle.
Okay.
And that's why I had to make it work. And I found a huge difficulty making that leap to trying to manage and be directly responsible for the people under me. And I tended to fall back into my comfort zone. Like, one of the issues I have is that when I quote jobs or when I'm working on jobs, I always know that worst case, I can take over the development work. And so that fills in a lot of gaps. If you make some errors in your quoting, or if things kind of go off the rails, you can jump in. And the problem is you just start doing it all the time. Right? And next thing you know, not only are you working all the time doing development, so you're not concentrating on business development, but also just about everything you work on by its nature is suddenly an emergency rush job. So I'm pulling all-nighters and trying to fill in all these gaps. So the piece of advice that I heard that I thought really hit home was that having somebody else do the job 80% as well as you is still better than you doing it at 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
So true.
It's very, very true.
Yeah.
I'm not like you, so I never had the technical background. Like, I taught myself how to build WordPress sites way back in 2010 or 2009. But I don't consider myself a developer, so I didn't have that expertise. So in some way, my lack of knowledge when it comes to the technical stuff probably helped us grow, because I was forced to delegate. So what would you say were some of the fears that you had also about letting go of the reins?
Well, I think a big part, one of the traps we all seem to fall into, a lot of the other agency owners that I know, is the thinking that it's going to take longer to explain this to somebody than it would be for me to just do it myself.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's one of the things I learned quickly, although not quickly enough, but learned quickly after starting to work with Dude. In fact, was I had this obsession in my head that clients would not stand for something taking 2 weeks to complete. That, oh no, I better promise it to them for next week. And that means I'll have to do it myself. And what I realized is clients are totally fine with whatever ETA you want to give them, 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Let's just hit the deadline. That's all you need to do.
Right.
So,
right.
And communicate. So now in my mind, Iris at Dude, she's my pod leader. She's my project manager, period. Like when I talk to clients, I don't think of her being in Tijuana. I think of her as being in the cubicle next to me.
Yep.
And I tell clients, as soon as we get off the call, I'm going to go talk to Iris, my PM, and we're going to see what's in the studio, and we're going to shoot you back an ETA. And they're always fine with it. Always.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Right? Yeah.
What a fantastic revelation.
Yeah.
Getting back to the question about like the fears, was there anything else that you were afraid of other than the ETA thing? And thinking that you had to explain, or that it would, take less time for you to do it?
Yeah, well, there's definitely, well, there are two, I guess I said there were two things. In fact, I can think of two others. One is, of course, that you are worried that they're just not going to do as good a job as you. But then, like I said, it doesn't matter. Let's just, if it can be 80% there and I can give them a bit of feedback, they can get it up to 100%. And that's way better than me slaving over it, trying to get it all done myself. So that's one issue. And then the other, quite frankly, is especially as you're starting out, and I'm even now, I still have, I'm at a weird tipping point where I'm getting busy, like really busy. And so I'm trying to scale, but at a certain point, you start to worry about like, wow, I've got like a bunch of employees.
Yeah.
Right. And you better have some steady flow of income, and the key to all that, of course, is monthly recurring revenue. That was a huge, what a shift that was for me to start. Like I literally, a year ago, I had 0 monthly recurring revenue. And now I'm at about 10K, which is enough to pay those major expenses and allows you to be a lot pickier about your clients because you're not operating from a state of panic
and just trying to make payroll essentially. Like
that's right. Yeah, where you'll take on any job, even when your gut tells you that they're a bad client,
right?
Or a bad fit, I should say.
Yeah, totally.
You feel like you have no choice, and that's a bad place to be.
Did you ever, because a lot of agency owners that I talk to that are, one woman or one man shops, is they will often say, well, my profit margin is 90% or something like that. I heard that the other day and I was like,
yes.
Did you ever track your time on your projects and then assign an hourly rate to yourself for that?
No, I really didn't. And I know I took that pro forma course with you, and I know I should be doing that. And again, that's just a terrible mistake a lot of us fall into, where we don't value our own time at all the time. I say it all the time. I still say it. I still say things like, it doesn't cost me anything to build out a website. So, hey, who cares whether they, if they don't pay, it's not a big deal. Of course it costs me something. It costs me all the time I put into it, right? It's just such a
and also the opportunity cost, because you could be going out and trying to find new businesses if that's something that you're responsible for. Yeah, and I think you're doing the mastermind that we're starting in April, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll go through the pro forma again just to give you more training on that. But that's definitely for those of you that are listening that are still 1-person shops or 2-person shops, or even if you're just doing a lot of production work. If you track your time and you assign an hourly rate for yourself, so let's just do some simple math. Let's just say that you made $400 a week. This is like way simple math. Let's say you work 400, or let's do 40. Let's do you work 40 hours and your time is worth $100 an hour, right? So that's if you spend 10 hours working on a project, that's essentially $1,000 in production labor, right? So if you track that and you see, man, I am investing way too much of my time into these projects because now my cost of goods, which includes production labor, is way higher than it needs to be. And so it makes way more sense for me to just hire somebody and even pay them $35 an hour, because $35 an hour is a lot better than $100 an hour, and most of the time they are going to do as good a job or even a better job than you. And then you can take, your time and you can go out and you can look for new business and grow the agency or, manage something else. So that's another thing that, like, if you're struggling to get the courage essentially to go out and find new team members to help you, just track your time and then look at how much it's actually costing you. That should be all the motivation that you need to get out there and hire and start building your team.
Yeah, and I remember you telling us too, and this hit all of us like a punch in the face, was, like it's fine that you might say, look, my rate that I charge clients $100 an hour. So okay, so if I do a 10 hours of work, that's $1,000. But what you pointed out to us was that in fact the kind of work that we should be doing is more on like the business dev side of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like marketing and sales and stuff. And that's not $100 an hour. That's like way more. You work at what your hourly rate really is, and it could be upwards of $500 or $600 an hour, because you're not doing that work now. You're sitting there doing development work that you could be paying, like you said, $35 an hour.
Yeah, totally. So I know that you had mentioned that, Iris is your pod leader, and serves as your, kind of project manager. Who else does your team consist of right now, or is it mainly just you?
Oh yeah, so I do still have. I've got two other developers
Okay.
that are very, very niche.
Mhm.
One with that's like a React developer.
Oh yeah,
Heavy JavaScript.
right.
And another guy who fills in some of the blanks for me on some of the back end Shopify stuff. It was not enough. Like, I know you guys you offer that as well, but it was not enough to keep you guys busy. But I
Yeah.
have him, for small tasks and that sort of thing. So it allows me to turn around some of those little tasks really quickly. So that helped.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the niche, right? So Shopify, I love, like, everybody tells you to find a niche, and I am a huge advocate of finding a niche, but it doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily always have to be a vertical. It doesn't have to just be plumber
Right.
like that. I believe that you can develop a niche also with the technology, which is what you're doing now. Like, we've seen a lot of people who've built good agencies focusing on a technology like Infusionsoft, or now like it's with you as Shopify. So what was the thing that motivated you to really want to hone in on Shopify?
It was, it's funny, it really didn't happen until just this past year or so. Because what ended up happening was that I started getting a ton of requests from other folks in, other agency owners that are getting requests for Shopify work. And I've
Mhm.
just become known as this Shopify expert. And I'm always, happy to jump on a call with these guys and try to set them straight, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, I find. You've got a lot of people that are really focused on something like WooCommerce, and I feel almost deliberately mislead people, because it's not deliberate, but it's just they know WooCommerce, they don't know Shopify. They only have a smattering of information about it, and a lot of it's misinformation. And so you get agencies coming to me frequently saying, "Look, we've got this opportunity. But we're really nervous about it. We don't know we've heard that there's issues and there's pitfalls and this and that. What do we need to be careful of?" And so I like to set them straight. I kind of enjoy setting them straight. And so I've just become this de facto sort of Shopify uh, font of knowledge,
Mhm.
which is pretty cool. But I do, and so because of that, I found that maybe the market's not quite as saturated as I thought in terms of real expertise in this field. So we're sort of doubling down on it to some extent. And
Yeah.
yeah,
What would you say is the number one thing that you love about Shopify?
yeah, easy answer. It's and it's why I became a Shopify expert way back when. It's the most intuitive e-commerce system you'll ever work with, bar none. There's other ones that might have some more flexibility, or like maybe they might have some more flexibility or some more power. but you won't find one that's more intuitive. It's just, you can pick it up. And when I do training sessions with clients, they pick up how to run the site and make their updates in an hour. It's phenomenal. And on top of that, it's, as a developer, you've got full access to all the source code. You can get in there, you can modify all your templates, you can embed anything you want. Like the React developer I've just mentioned to you, we're working on right now is an integration with Shopify and Airtable. And it allows us to basically run, really have access to a database within Shopify, and it allows us to do some amazing stuff. So, that's just a great example of where Shopify is, completely open and extensible, so it's a great platform.
Awesome. All right. And then on the flip side, what would you say is something that you're not so stoked about with Shopify, or that you think that they could do better?
Yeah, good question. I would say probably their biggest failing, it's one of their biggest advantages, is this, that you'll read about a lot, is that they have this open app market. They deliberately sort of leave some functionality out of the core product to create this ecosystem for app developers, plugins essentially in WordPress terms.
Yeah.
So which is great. And so there's a huge ecosystem of plugins. A lot of them are just mediocre to and worse. And so in some cases, a good example I would point to is a marketplace, where you want to have a bunch of sellers on your site, and it's an open marketplace, kind of an Etsy type of thing. There's really only one or two plugins that will do that in Shopify, and they're both pretty horrible. So that tends to be an issue. I really have to dive deep with clients to find out all the functional stuff up front, because you don't want to get stuck on the platform and find out that there's really a very limited solution. Because on the WordPress side of things, first, you'll probably find 10 or 15 options instead of 2.
Yeah.
And it's not all that difficult to code your own solution if you had to, because you've got full access to the database and all that stuff. So that can be a bit of a stumbling block on some Shopify projects. But I'm hoping we've sort of going to be able to deal with that with this new Airtable integration. It opens up a lot of possibilities. So.
And you guys will actually start to develop, I guess, let's just call them, plugins or widgets for Shopify too?
Yeah, well, actually, we do already. We have one in the App Store right now. But what I'm hoping with the Airtable integration, it will allow us to give a lot of the functionality that we would have had to pay for an app for directly through Airtable. So no need for an additional app, no custom app development,
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Well, it's one of the benefits, I think, of you being such a technical person, because there's no way that I would be able to create something like that.
Yeah.
I'd have to hire somebody like you.
Yeah, it does make it easier too, because that's the thing. I'm able to. I may not be able to execute it, but I can come up with the idea, and because I've got that developed background, so you can sort of map it out and then just get somebody else to build it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guess what, man? We're out of time.
Yeah. Oh, geez, look at that.
It flies, I'm telling you.
30 minutes already. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Chris, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah. So it'll be probably through our newly launched website. That's going to be live today, I think.
Woohoo!
Whole new branding and everything, which will be cool. So the website, photonfactorydesign.com. And then as well, just by email. I don't know if you put the email on the page there somewhere, but
sure.
So at chris@photonfactorydev.com. Yeah, that'd be great. We don't have much social presence at this point. I got to beef that up, but
yeah. That's also the interesting part of running an agency, is it's always like the cobbler's son has no shoes. Like, our own marketing and our own web presence is awful, because we're always doing stuff for our clients. But yeah, we'll definitely tell people to go check out your site. We'll have the links there. What would be the best way for somebody to reach out? Or I'm sorry, let me ask you the second question. Sorry, who would be the perfect person to reach out to you?
Oh, a perfect person to reach me.
Yes.
The perfect client.
Who would be the perfect person to reach out to?
Yeah, so we love working with clients that are new to the platform, because I do feel like we bring something a little different there where we're able to really explain it in a way that people can understand. So if you're new and you're a little bit nervous about getting into the whole e-commerce space, we can definitely help with that. And I think get you up to speed pretty quickly in a sort of a user-friendly way. Communication is kind of our thing, you know. But then, but also just for established businesses, what we discovered is that, you know, we've got a lot of clients where we've built a store for them and then just left them on their own because and that was it. So what we've moved into now is SEO and conversion rate optimization.
Love it.
So rather than just leave them to their own devices and hope that the site does well, we're now able to offer that sort of carry-on service where we're actually going to make sure you're ranking well, that the site's delivering and converting, because it's all about the sales at the end of the day. Of course, it can look beautiful, but if it's not converting. So even established businesses that maybe aren't converting the way they think they should, or not getting the sales they think they should, then that'd be a perfect fit for us.
Awesome, man. Well, everybody who's listening, if you need that Shopify expert that you can't find anywhere, definitely hit up Chris. He gave you his info. And then to all of our listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And make sure that you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Thanks so much, Chris, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right.